Hey guys, back with Sam again, talking about NFTs. We're talking about provenance, authorship, ownership, authenticity, everything behind it. It's a pretty good conversation, very timely. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know what you think. Cheers, guys. Welcome back, Sam.
Hey, welcome back, Drew. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Well, I think we're in very exciting times, witnessing the birth of a new era of, digital art being kind of uh, born now in this modern age where, we've had a very pricey sale
Yeah,
just recently.
yeah. That's yeah. I think super exciting, very very
Mm,
exciting. I don't know how much of it is hype and how much of it is
that's a good
like
question.
a bubble. But and
Mm,
this is sort of it's not an old concept, but it's been around for a couple of years now, sort of thing. But I think there is this sort of movement of the market right now. It is really showing sort of a progression, and
mm.
it sort of goes in hand in hand. But I think the interesting thing is that this really ties it to something with more sentimental value or more, rather than just being like a financial instrument, which a lot of these sort of cryptocurrencies are, sort of thing. So,
Okay, we'll have to step back a little and talk about the technology of what's happening here. We're talking about NFTs here,
mhm.
for art. So non fungible
Non
tokens.
fungible. That's like a mouthful right there.
Yeah. So this is the beating heart of the technology that enables people to make $1 million sales on a particular digital art piece.
Yeah. So this has always been the crux, or like the major problem of digital art is that it is completely mutable. It is can be infinitely mutable. Like
Right.
it can be like transferred and
Mm. You can
like
try to sell an image, but someone else can just copy it,
yeah,
right?
exactly. It's the same with sort of memes and anything sort
Mm.
of thing. So um,
So it's non-defensible in that way.
yeah, there was no seemingly there's no protection in
Yeah.
place to kind of for authenticity, for your provenance, and just for um, just making sure
Yeah.
it's real.
That there's a person is established as the owner, and it's a non-trivial process for someone else to be able to kind of claim to be an owner or
Yeah.
have a copy
So
or something like that.
ownership, authorship, like a huge sort of deals in terms of digital art, because like with canvas, it's very tangible, it's very
Mm.
immediate. The
That's right.
it's difficult to sort of forge, say like a painting, or it's more difficult to forge a painting than it is to say an artwork, and that I
Mm.
suppose
I guess.
creates the scarcity of it.
Yeah. So I guess this kind of connects a little bit to there being this invisible quality to art as well. That there's this key difference between an authentic painting versus an forgery painting, even if they
Yeah.
look the same. So that
Yeah, totally. And I think I've sort of been thinking about this, and there's all these sort of criterias that these auctioneers sort of go through normally, where you can talk about authenticity. Yes, is it authentic? Is it? And then there's the story behind it. Then there's the provenance of behind it, which
yeah.
is sort of
Well,
how has it
it's
gone
the
from hand to
important
hand?
part, I think, in the end, the story behind what you're seeing. So this is what I see every day. Actually, I'm a frequent Reddit browser, and the what makes it to the front page, what gets the big views, isn't just some image of a piece of art. It's generally the creation process of it. So people value more the kind of authenticity that a human made this, and this is it. This is this one person's original thing that they've done.
Yes, this is another sort of interesting segue. If like we can get into it later, we were talking about Dali last time, and
Yeah.
sort of talking about maybe, well, not again, but like generative models, variational autoencoders, things that could possibly, like in the future, create just infinite amounts of
Yeah.
artwork, and sort
Well,
of
we've been seeing the tips of that
Mm.
recently.
And to sort of like now be able to kind of authenticate digital art, I think is important in a way, because um, it's a not precursor, but it's a prelude to, I think, maybe some of the things to come.
All right. Well, you've brought up GANs and the creation of, I don't know, a latent space where you can browse through and create new images. We were looking at a piece of GAN
Yeah,
artwork earlier. Actually, I think I don't know. There's various ones that are for sale, but we're seeing some at $500, that kind of thing. And it looks like that artists are finding value, I think, in creating data sets to train these models on, very clean data sets to produce these, fascinating latent spaces.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I think we were looking at Foundation app before, and it's crazy to see
Mm.
like a bunch of like Facebook friends and people I've sort of known previously. Sort of, if we do you want to open it up and have a look at some of
Yeah.
these, like
Well,
like
yeah, there's some
Pussy
interesting
Riot.
examples.
Pussy Riot's on there now. Aphex Twin has joined like the other day. You've got Yoshi Sodika. You have Young Jake. But even people like Neon Cat guy and
Well, all right, slow it down a little. So we've got these people who are selling effectively memes, like the original artist creation for a meme. Like you see, Nyan Cat, for those of you who aren't internet nerds, is just like a kind of cat flying through space with a rainbow coming out of it. And so someone's like something that went viral, got popular. Like the kind of original GIF of that has sold for how much?
300 ETH. So that was worth like $500,000 pretty much.
Half
Half a
a
million US.
million
So
dollars for this little Giphy thing of
so
the flying cat.
this is why I'm suspicious. It's like, is it a bubble, or is it also maybe just a reckoning? Like maybe it is just time.
Well, I mean, it's a fair bit of money to just be a speculative bubble, but I don't know. I guess maybe that's how they work. But I suppose it doesn't seem to be an isolated incident that a rando meme seems capable
Well,
of selling
Grumpy Cat's
for
on
a
there
fair
as
bit.
well, and also like
But
Trollface, the guy who created Trollface, and also like Scumbag Steve. People like selling. They're sort of realizing that memes weren't just like this thing not to be monetized, but you can actually authenticate it in a way, and sort of have that way of um, having the, but like, so this really,
this is a monetization thing, though, isn't it?
I mean, this is the interesting
Like,
conversation that you talk about with authorship and
yeah,
ownership. The sort of dichotomy between those two, because like, because this can obviously just be passed around still. It's just an image.
yeah.
And
There's not much like you can buy the scumbag Steve meme image, but
yeah,
there's a million other copies out there
yeah.
that other people are using as well.
So no one's talking about like the legal protection behind this and the
Because
copyright.
yeah, you can tell yourself as you lie in bed that you own an image that a million other people also have. I don't know how much, if it necessarily you get out of it. I guess presumably it means you're the one that can sell the T-shirts that have Scumbag Steve
What
on them.
this is the
I'm,
interesting conversation, because I think at the moment it is not. People aren't buying based on what it can possibly use. That, like, it's too early
do you
for
think?
anyone to like consider the legal sort of ramifications sort of down the line. But so this could either be a really good investment, or just like
I'd like to think that if I was going to buy a meme to invest in as a business, that I'm like, I want to start over a new leaf. If I buy the right meme and just sell T-shirts and mugs of that can be set for life. I don't know which meme I'd pick.
But it just seems like, I mean, vanity, vanity sort of icons for crypto bros. But that's not to say that's not just what the art world originally always what has been. It is just
yeah, it's a tangled web.
it's a passageway to a higher cultural status.
Yeah,
And so, I mean, the thing is, the collectors of these are probably not seen as the same sort of sophisticated, have the same sort of sophistication as investors.
Hmm.
And the art world has always been a walled garden, and this is really, I mean,
Well, isn't this the breaking of the wall of this walled garden?
hopefully,
I
I mean,
mean, it sounds like now, for sort of perhaps the first time, a digital artist can create a piece and sell it, and it's kind of defensible in some way.
yeah.
Like, you know,
And the flip side to that is anyone can sell anything, right? So
uh, okay, well, not quite. I can attempt to sell you the Eiffel Tower, but you shouldn't necessarily buy
yeah,
it from me.
I mean, you hope that these people actually have some proof of authenticity, because this is just basically proof of authenticity. Um,
Hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's a form of speculation. It's hard to know the mindset of every investor.
I
Why?
like bad
Yeah.
luck Brian. Like it's just, but and also I mean, these guys are sort of putting it up with a reserve price and not knowing how much it's probably getting sold for. Within hours of
Yeah.
these people, and they've like kind of gone, oh, hang on,
How much is bad luck
how,
Brian
how
worth?
much is it worth? Like, what is it?
Yeah, it's a photo of some rando child just kind of looking a bit dorky,
Mm,
but um, it went viral very, very heavily,
yeah,
so a lot of people recognize it. And so, is the viral image worth anything? Well, apparently it is. Yes.
the strange thing is like the ability to like exhibit this and display this is not so you know not so obvious. Like you have a painting, you just stick it up in your home, and people go,
That's
"Oh my
right.
god, there's a Rothko!" Right?
Yeah.
Like that's incredible. But like this, it. I mean, you can do digital. We were talking about having,
Hmm.
and maybe out of this there might be like a digital photo,
Yeah,
um,
gallery of some kind.
people selling like framed digital where they can put their NFTs up, sort of
Yeah.
thing. I think that's
Well,
I think that'd
I
probably be a
I
very
I
positive
think
step.
it's worth checking out.
Yeah,
Anyone listening, if you want to check out the new kind of digital art that's going on. So, which is to say, it's kind of art that you can't pretty much get on a canvas. You won't generally see these kinds of things in the flesh, partly because they're multiple frames. So often
well,
enough, you know.
a lot of people are selling the gifts, like, and it's sort of repeatable. So it's very based on online culture and sort of meme culture,
Yeah.
like also visual culture, because there is a removing of context here. There is a very much collapse of context, where a lot of art previously has been about historical, positioning,
Mm.
and sort of creating a historical narrative from previous artworks. And this is the walled garden where it is very elitist within the art world. And you
Mm.
know, a lot of the digital artists are like, well, I mean, these people go through art school, so they kind of
Mm.
do have that critical, backing, and that
Yeah.
discourse behind them, and a lot of kind of frustration. But um, I think it's great that there's some capital now. Like, I mean, like
Well,
it's
yeah, I don't think of it as necessarily a bubble of anything. It seems to me to be a beginning of something. Like, because it didn't
well,
particularly exist before, and now it's there, and it's a form of investment, it's a form of speculation, but it's another way for artists to get paid.
particularly
And
the people one, like the Mike Winkelmann one. It like, I mean, it was 69 million US or
about that, for 5,000 images,
images.
one created per day, so within a 24-hour period. And I've seen plenty of these, and to my mind, they're pretty good,
I mean, but
actually.
that proves what
Like
you have
they
to do as be an artist, to be,
look,
you have to be prolific. Like
yeah,
Picasso painted
mm,
one picture a day at least, sort of thing. So he was
yeah.
super prolific.
If you've made 5,000 images, you're probably pretty good at it by the end.
So, I mean, what you want to look at as an art investor, someone investing, is whether the prices will go up. And for that, you look at their output, whether they're going to keep creating, especially if they're just like a, part-time artist or someone who's hasn't been creating
Okay.
for that long.
So
So,
this purchase of Beeple's work, you're saying, is someone declaring Beeple is going to keep making more, and his name is going to grow.
totally, his art prices will go up the more he makes
Mm,
because it
I
creates a
see.
history. And like
Right.
because any artist, it is actually really hard to make art, especially
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
It takes a toll on you, and you can sort of see it in the art, the progression of them every period they
Exactly.
go through, every stage they go through,
Mm,
and and yeah, like to understand that this is going to be different or that it's going to continue on into
mm,
the
mm.
future rather than just sort of. But then again, if they're cut short like Van Gogh, then it might even just make it even more scarce and rare. But
I guess, well, what I'm seeing at least out of people is political art, generally kind of outrage fueled. What is the imagery that will create intensity of emotions, that kind of thing.
it's very tied to our time.
Yeah. And I guess fair enough, I would say. Art, you want to invoke feelings in people, and that's what he's going for. So, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like evoking an emotional response, and I think this is reactionary to like where we are, especially going through the last couple of years, 4 years, especially. His art was very political, and it
Mm,
was very driven by attention or like outrage, right?
right.
So
Mm.
that there is a sense, and also I sort of watched a bit on him where he was talking about it being a very not a cathartic process, but like a natural process sort of thing.
Oh.
He didn't put much thought into it, so he's very much in the flow sort of
Oh.
thing. So it's
Okay.
conceptually, to get into that space, you have to have done it a lot. It's sort of muscle memory. You get into the zone and the flow, and then you just do it, sort of thing.
Now, it sounded like you knew some people and know some people who have been creating these NFTs, creating some of this new digital art, and that's interesting. I guess I'm really happy and hopeful that artists now hopefully have these opportunities, these avenues to create imagery that can be rewarding for them. So yeah, this feels a bit like a door opening for people.
Yeah, like I said, like either a bubble or a reckoning, So it's very exciting, But I've been through bubbles before,
Yeah.
I remember having a couple of Bitcoin back in the day, and then
Ah,
like sort of selling it because I didn't.
you sold out your
Well,
bitcoins,
I had
dude.
to. I had to,
No.
pay the bills, right? Like,
And that's how Drew lost
but
$1 million.
but it uh, like specifically NFTs are based on the ECR. I think seven. What is it? We're looking at it before. Yeah, like it's a ECR token basically.
Right.
So it's based on Ether. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
So there's cryptographic security that kind of guarantees like proof of stake and that kind of thing.
so I mean, people have been talking about the applications of this for so long, and this is just one of the examples of how it can be transferred into real value, sort of thing. Like,
Mm,
um, but if you get down to it, we're talking about authenticity,
yeah.
specifically provenance and authorship and ownership.
Mm,
But it's a very flashy, and I think it is kind of a bit egocentric to be looking at art. I love art, but
mm.
the game
Me too.
changing things this is gonna be is like like sort of supply chain sort of stuff, and
Yeah.
like like um authenticating like food supplies,
Yeah.
and
So, like, the idea with these NFTs is they solve a kind of trust problem with regards to the authenticity
proof
of
of
something that
proof
you've
of
purchased.
authenticity.
Yeah, and there are other, bits and pieces, aspects of the world where that concept also plays, and like we're hearing a bit about that with like Asian food markets, and it's sort of like if you're buying a hunk of meat, it can turn out to be extremely important. What is this the provenance background
Yeah,
of
I
that?
think all
Mm,
if we can like put put blockchain on all the wet markets, right? We wouldn't have this problem right
Wow.
now, right?
Yeah. Trust is a huge problem for sure.
Totally.
All right. So, well, I'm excited. I mean, it just seems like a door opening for aspiring artists out there who've got some energy to burn, if who've got the flame of passion lit to create some art and sell it. And I happened to catch one of your pieces earlier today, Drew, and you seemed a little reluctant to sell it before. Do you think you're gonna dive into the NFT bandwagon?
Yeah, I think so. Like, and even even if I'm not definitely not cynical, but like I've had been burnt before, but like
Mm.
even just sort of that exercise of creativity every day, and also because before it's felt a bit frivolous.
Mm-hmm.
If you can authenticate it, and if you can sort of place a certificate on it,
Yeah.
it just sort of feels more tangible. It, like, as an
Mm.
artist, it feels like you've created something.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, what else can you put this to? And I'm like, can you do it for poetry? Can you do it for writing? Can you do it for like every other art form?
Well,
Like
I think so. I think that's the idea.
I think the market at the moment is really dealing with a specific kind of demographic of who are the collectors.
Yeah, you've talked about this before, that you have a certain sense about this. Not just anyone that's buying this kind of art.
Well, it's crypto bros, basically. Like,
Crypto bros.
pretty much
So
young
investors, young cocky investors.
young white Asian sort of investors who are into collectibles. So the sophistication of the market
Yeah,
isn't quite there,
right.
and I mean,
Harsh,
but
man.
no, but that they're the
Brutal.
vanguards. They're the people who are making it more democratic. They're the ones who are making it
Hmm.
leveling the playing field, like bringing down that walled garden sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope that nothing holds this back. That this opens up a new vista for artists to make money and then just keep making art. I mean, great. What a lovely outcome that would be.
Yeah, it creates opportunities and creates new avenues. Not everyone can be, so, like, it's sort of like the outcasts. So, like, Banksy and like Cause and all these sort of people
Mm-hmm.
who are in the art world aren't really taken seriously, sort of thing, because they don't have,
I
like.
take Banksy seriously.
But there is sort of like this elitism and
Wink.
this formal, this the formality of it, that is
Yeah.
quite tied with old sort of money kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like, now there's definitely, like, people can push their influence of what they like through the influence of just by um yeah, so pushing the influence of uh, this deals a lot with market manipulation and how people can sort of influence taste and culture.
Mm-hmm.
So, within a sense, when you're buying like a $100 million artwork, you're not just buying it
Mm-hmm.
for you're buying it for the status, and also you're buying it for the prestige. You're
Uh,
buying it to actually push influence in a certain direction that has some symbolic meaning,
yeah.
in a way. And this is not exactly what these sort of crypto investors are used to. Is sort of
Yeah.
how to sort of deal with culture rather than other than just sort of collectibles, and sort of being rare,
Exactly.
and having this sort of scarcity of resource.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of interesting, but in a way that kind of frees the art market, because that takes away from is, people think that the art world is this sort of pure thing, or at least I had this sort of illusion,
Yeah.
or perhaps delusion, when I sort of got into art, where it was that it was this very pure,
Ah.
like, art is this sort of
And has it lived up to these
well,
expectations?
I mean, I didn't even sell it, like, or particularly sell that much work. Like,
Hmm.
it was just more about the expression and the cathartic sort of
Ah.
process, and being creative, and just generally sort of having an outlet. So
I
when
see.
so when you sort of start selling it, and creating a market, and then
Mm.
it becomes a different ball game.
Absolutely.
And then you can sort of play with price manipulation. You can see all sorts of
Yeah.
different ways that people do auction manipulation in art
Well,
markets. And
yeah. There's a lot of this NFT art now for sale on different websites, and they have these different price points, and some of them seem pretty extravagant, and yeah, there's a real kind of trade-off sense of like, well, have I just bought myself an extraordinarily expensive, screensaver, or is there some kind of value in this to
sure, so
resell?
you can have authenticity on that specific artwork, but the provenance and the kind of the history behind that artist. So what's to stop me
Mm.
from going online and then chandelier bidding
Oh,
on my own artwork
so
to create a false scarcity, so I can drive up my own prices, and
yeah,
then people will go, oh well, that's worth like at least 4 ETH, 5 ETH.
that's it. So there's a lot of potential for market manipulation in these kinds of systems.
Yeah,
Yes, I don't think there's an easy or trivial answer to escape from all that. Yeah,
I mean the good thing about a blockchain is that it's all traceable, so people will
yeah,
eventually know who that sort of ties back to. But you can have an anonymous ether account sort of thing, unless you get like some sort of government body or some regulatory body involved
yeah.
to um, to look at who's been bidding on what and what's the actual, because value is
It
very
gets too
tied to
complicated.
a very it ties into this idea of nominal value, and
Mm,
authenticity also ties into
mm,
this as well. So this is this crazy thing.
mm,
I was watching
mm,
this
mm.
interesting doco the other day. Actually, I think it was Death Among the Mormons or something. It's about Mark Hoffman. He's like the most famous or most renowned forger in the world.
Oh, okay.
And he sort of forged these documents because he was a trader in documents, in historical documents.
Mm-hmm.
And he traded a lot of documents that were dating back to the beginning of the sort of Church of the Latter-day Saints.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, like the end story of that is like he blew up a lot of people because he didn't want people finding out about it, sort of thing. But one of the things he was talking about is like creating a story and
Yeah.
creating a history, and when people believe it, it becomes true, sort of thing. And
That's right.
you think with the Church of the Mormons,
Mm.
if you get enough people, this is this idea of like normative ethics or normative values. You get
Mm.
enough people believing it, it becomes true.
Yeah.
So it becomes
Sort
this
of.
social contract where everyone just sort of believes it, and
Yeah.
then so that's when a forgery or a fake can actually become part of history and part of true. And I think people have this really adverse reaction to it. Like humans are really, built out. Like they're built to sort of sniff out bullshit,
Mm. Mm.
sort of thing.
I agree.
Like that. Underlying all of this, I think people don't want to feel like they're ripped off, or
Yeah,
that
that's right.
they're smelling bullshit, or they're being ripped off in a way.
Exactly. So yeah, I think people are united in that sense, and ways where um, you can very reliably validate authenticity and provenance. Yeah, really open the market for people.
Yeah, and I'm not sure people sort of understand, or there's no way to tell the repercussions of this in the future, because obviously, securing a thing on a blockchain is a smart idea, but if we're dealing with everyday transactions,
Yeah.
there could be so much slipping through the gaps, just so much
Yeah,
that
and you need the energy requirements for basic monetary transfers to be, pretty reasonable, hopefully, in the end. Like,
yeah.
stuff like Bitcoin suffer from this problem of how much energy it takes to do anything.
Oh right, yeah, like the transaction throughput as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, so yeah, I actually was involved in an ICO like a while ago. I'm not sure I've told you this, and we were sort of doing like micro accreditation on the blockchain, sort of thing.
Huh.
We're going to do it through an ECR,
Mm-hmm.
NERC token. And yeah, so it was basically the same thing using Solidity to create. It was basically micro credentials. So, say you're at work,
Mm.
you wanted to get accreditation for being able to, you know, uh, solve or finish a certain amount of cards.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like just work accreditation.
yeah.
Accreditation for what you've actually achieved. And we actually went to someone. We like did a pitch, and they was basically,
Mm.
there's the transaction value at the moment is about like $1 per transaction. So there's
Okay.
no way you can do those sort of micro transactions and sort of make a profit. And we're like, okay,
Yeah.
well, let's at the moment. But I think there's new things where there was doing sharding with.
Mm.
I haven't been keeping up with the like Ethereum, to be honest.
Wow. Maybe that's why you not on these tips early enough. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, I know Bitcoin Cash does NFTs, and so I think they're on the like Lightning Network,
I
and
see.
there's a whole bunch of different sort of. But you know what? Like, I mean, I wrote about this I think like 3 years ago, where I was talking about. Uh, have you heard about DAOs?
Is that a cryptocurrency?
DAO? No, it deals with sort of like Solidity contracts, like the distributed autonomous organization.
All right. Well, I guess I've heard some things about that kind of stuff. I remember hearing about one. They seemed to go to so much effort to convince people it's going to be safe, and then it was immediately hacked as soon
Oh
as
yeah, that was
yeah
the original DAO. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Wow, a
That
lot
actually
of people
led
lost
to
money.
like a fork of the chain. I think
Yeah, it
like
was
that was like
very impactful.
yeah,
Mm,
um, yeah. So a lot of history there. But
mm,
this
mm.
is sort of the game, right? There's this constant,
Absolutely.
and anyone who can hack it is sort of like, well, it's supposed to be bulletproof, and if they do get away with it, but there's money at stake. So
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
same
that's
time,
right. Yeah.
but like just distributed autonomous organizations are a very fascinating idea. And I was sort of writing, or there is also this idea of the GAN It wasn't my idea. It was, I think,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure where it came from, but it was sort of this idea of an artist, an AI artist in the cloud, in
Mm-hmm.
this, this sea of smart contracts
Right.
that can just create artwork and then sell it,
Yeah,
and
you
then
would think so.
can make money, from selling artwork to
Mm,
produce
mm.
more artwork to
Well,
pay
yeah,
for more compute, and then
yeah.
sort of like this cycle sort of.
Well, I feel we're seeing some of that. We're seeing like the use of machine learning mixed in with art. So some of the art that I've been seeing tonight that's made plenty of dollars on the market out there looks to be this blend of technology as well as human innovation. Uh, yeah, so it's not just the one idea shining through, but I don't think they'll be short in using every trick in the toolbook to stand out to be noticed.
Yeah, I think it's very early days still with crypto. Like the there's specific bottlenecks with hardware and limitations with the current technology,
Mm,
and where it is. And proof of work is also very inefficient. I mean, we were talking about that
right.
before, and I don't think it is. I mean, it's definitely not sustainable if right now Bitcoin is currently taking more, or it takes more, like the
A
same as a small
crazy
country like
bunch.
the United Arab Emirates. I heard last time,
Yeah. Yeah.
where and just because it's doing proof of work, and that's completely meaningless. You can have
Yeah.
like proof of stake. You can have these other
That's right.
proof
There
mechanisms.
needs to be a transition to fully bring in Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin, but
the problem is Bitcoin is like the first, and it's sort of like
Yeah.
and so it's sort of the authentic one. So again, we get
Mm.
into authenticity and what is real and stuff, and
Yes.
so people go back to this, tie it to this value of
Hmm.
um so yeah, not necessarily, people run at a gold rush. They're not looking at sustainability.
Well, I don't know if I spent 90 million or well 70 million on a piece of art. I'm hoping for sustainability. Probably. I
Well, I mean, that's on like Ethereum. It's like ECR token, so that's solidity, and that could possibly be taken to proof of stake at some point. I think there was some talk. It's all yeah, it's all.
do you think there's a issue of maybe the artist won't get paid?
Oh no! Like the point of the blockchain is that it's always there.
Yeah.
The point of the NFT is, and I think NFTs are like transferable between blockchain, so
Mm-hmm.
they should be transferable between um, is it ECR, ERC tokens and other.
Okay. Hmm.
Eventually, they'll get there where they're able to be transferred between different blockchains. So the
Right.
protocols shouldn't get in the way. This is this idea of
Yeah.
interoperability. That I mean, that was
Well,
the same as like.
despite whatever the limitations are, it doesn't seem to be slowing down the art world into using them for the time being.
Oh no, no,
Yeah.
and it shouldn't. But yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, it's exciting times for that. But what I'm saying is that this is just the tip of the iceberg of what it is potentially. It's very sexy. It's very like immediate.
I've seen great art today. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, having art specifically digitally focused seems like an interesting direction, and yeah, something I'm excited about. Like we've had these static canvases for a long time, and we can do much better than these digital mediums. I think so. Bring it on, I say for sure.
Just to have the idea that you can collect something that is not like a painting or something that was sold in a
Yeah.
gallery, I think is revolutionary,
Hmm.
and I think that's a huge step forward. Yeah, don't get me wrong, but 69 million. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, man. That's where we're at now. Get on board the gravy train.
yeah, true. Okay, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Well, hopefully, I will see some of Drew's art out there in due course on NFT.
yeah. I'll put mine out there, but it's a marathon, right?
For sure, man.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's always cycles involved in this sort of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. Sounds good. Well, hopefully, dear listener, you've been educated a little on this exciting new frontier, I would dare say. So, yeah, welcome to the future of digital art revolution.
welcome to the future. You're more optimistic than me. I'm
For sure.
yeah. Welcome to the future, listeners. Thank you.
All right. Bye for
All right,
now.
cheers, Sam. Thanks.